Hello, today I'm going to be bringing you part 2 of a property tour of our farm, which we call EB Acres. So BE Outdoors is bringing you a property tour of EB Acres. I think you get that. So we started in part 1 by going along the northern edge and heading east, and now along the eastern edge we're heading south. As is the first video, I would love to hear your suggestions, comments, ideas, or if you think that my ideas are good, you can put them into practice. What I've done is I've again taken all the teachings of the big names, the gurus, the people that do this and know what they're doing for a living, and tried to apply their practices to my property. And I take some derivations, I take some meshing of ideas, and in this video you'll see some of those different things. You'll also see a bank spline, which I'll bring a tour to you of one of those. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. I hope you find it informative, and if you like it, please share it with your friends and help my channel grow. And remember, it's a great day to be outdoors. Right now we're walking along the north line of my property, along the northeast field edge. A few years ago, I figured to give myself more screening, I would hinge some trees. So there's an example of a hinged tree that, trying to be a blockade for where they enter and exit. This is me planning ahead with some transplanted white pines. It's looking a little yellow, but I think this one will make it. Probably a great idea would be to plant one in there so the deer can't browse on it, because they do like white pines. And then, another hinge back there. And I'll come back through here this spring, early spring, March, and probably hinge this again. Trying to create a barrier as to where they can enter and exit. Another hinge. And a lot of these, this is my first attempt at hinging. I even hinged that tree way up there because I could probably reach it. And they're growing, they're budding, they're working, but the deer do find their way through. And I'm not above, making a fence for where they can enter and exit, because look, I have 2 trees. Both of these are still growing. Awesome, fun, and they're just going right between the 2 hinges. And they're going into that open property kind of willy-nilly, because there's no rhyme or reason over there. So whole way down I did this all along my north line. Still on that north line, just thought this was a neat hinge. This is a butternut. I think they kind of look ugly and unhealthy, but even like that was a pretty thin hinge, and it's still growing just fine. And this one hinged out. It was the way the tree was leaning towards the field. And again, if you look in the background, you see the neighboring property and how open it is. And my goal is to make mine all deer all the time, in terms of like feeling comfortable and staying, but deer are going to go wherever they want during the rut. And I should probably also mention, I don't think this neighbor's too fond of me. I think they've made up their mind about what I deserve or don't deserve. And if you're a landowner and that happens to you, don't sweat it, man. You can be the sweetest, juiciest peach, and not everybody's gonna love peaches. I stole that from Pinterest. But the thing is, they don't know what you've done without, how hard you've worked. Not everybody knows your story, and if they don't appreciate you as a neighbor, you just can't let that bother you. So that's just another helpful piece of advice. Most people, this is a hunting community and are fine with it, but every now and then you get somebody that isn't, and you just kind of got to roll with it. And I want everybody to like me, but I'm a teacher, and I've learned no matter what you do, sometimes they're just not going to, for whatever reason. So I have no disrespect. Hopefully one day he figures out what I'm all about, but all the same, it is what it is. Okay, so now what I'm gonna do is just do something a little bit different and take you on a drone tour. So we're panning towards the direction I'm walking in this tour, and you can see the big northeast field, and I'm just gonna fly down the line just to kind of give you a better view on a better day of what we're looking at. So we're going from west to east right now along my north property boundary, and we're looking dead ahead at a little island of woods along the line, so straight ahead to the east.
and I'll show another clip of this in a second. Now, just showing a different view altogether. This is the woods that would be behind you, so we are still flying west to east, but this is a bedding area and a ridge that is in part 1 of the video tour series, and it's just showing you what's behind us in terms of deer habitat. So this is southern exposure, and deer do love to bed on this, and we're going to fly up and over these giant clumps of trees in just a second here, and then I do have a double stand in that, so this double stand does overlook the field edge that we're currently walking on. And again, you can see that big northeast field, which is that blank canvas on the right hand side of the screen.
I'm realizing I got an awful lot to show you today. So in the frame right now, and it is hidden way up there, is another River's Edge hang-on stand, and then below it here is a water hole. And again, feedback, comments, questions about why or should there even be one there. That's a 70-gallon tank. I've switched to 100s after the advice of Mr. Sturgis again. And down the way here, I'll walk us there next, I do have a mock scrape, and then right over here, I gotta pan slow so you don't get seasick, I left this reel scrape, and I cut back all the trees along this edge so they could only scrape in certain spots, thinking this would be a great opportunity to pull them out in the field. And I think it was kind of a bonehead move. It's just not in bow range, just barely, so you can still see them, and then they can pull out and go the other direction. And so this year we had a lot of fun action right here at this spot, and I actually have some smaller bucks, or bucks I was never going to shoot on video, because, you know, if you can't shoot them, you might as well shoot them that way, right? And it just it never worked out. Now my boy got a couple good opportunities here. That's what these stands are all about. Here's the water hole, and you know, I actually leave quite a bit of leaves in them because the water doesn't evaporate, but I will definitely clean that out this year. And then probably see my bow set up a little bit better. I actually have an old ladder stand that I use for climbing up, and then the stand is up even higher there. And then the mock scrape is down below us, 22 yards. Still on that northeast field, on the field edge, here's my mock scrape and licking branch. I do have a cutty link just painted without 3D camo on the tree with a solar panel. And then that's kind of a view of a draw going into the neighboring property. And this used to be the corner of our property, and I really don't know what to do with it other than just leave it alone, which is definitely okay. But now, thanks to many prayers being answered and being incredibly blessed, we actually own the property that is behind this and does an L back to the north out to the road. And so I need to figure out an access route through this wash, and there is a water run down there so that I can access this direction as well. Now, I've already shown you a couple shots of this, so now I'm panning to the west, maybe a little bit northwest, and then our bow stand, our bow shot is up in this tree right here. And the shot placement was supposed to be for wind out of the south, thinking that we'd be hunting this property as an inside out, but they do have some buck movement coming from the neighbors and also coming from what is now ours too. So this was my scrape, and then I had that natural one I just showed you before, and then the Cutty Link J series behind it.
Okay, a little drone action. We just panned away from the water hole. We're climbing up, and the tree stand is about dead in the center of the screen there. It's pretty dang hidden. Now what we're going to do is we're going to fly over. We're basically flying east right now along the edge of the field, and I'm going to give you a shot of that mock scrape that has a grapevine licking branch on it with the Cutty Link J series camera. And you can kind of pan into that wash and that open woods behind us. Now we're going to zoom in on that little island, that little section of woods, and there's the mock scrape again on the left. We're flying towards that little chunk of woods right now, and In a little second here, I'll show you, here we are on the Google Earth, just to give you some perspective and to orientate you a little bit. Next, we're doing a slow pan of the big northeast field, which is that blank canvas. Sorry for the pixelation there, but really excited for opportunities for that. Now we're going to end up flying north, and what we're at is essentially what was the existing property, and on the right is the new property that we are blessed to now own. And I'm including that in this clip just as a perspective in terms of, you know, what's around us where we're hunting and what is at our disposal in terms of utilizing that northeast field to its fullest potential. So we're just flying north back towards the road for a little bit, and then we're going to pan towards kind of a hidden fallow field.
Still in the northeast field, looking at the left side of that little island of woods that kind of stuck out of the existing property, panning towards the east, towards what used to be the border of, we called it EB Acres, and now we have BE Outdoors. You know, it's still gets both families involved. And right on the line right here, if you look, you'll see plywood. I did this because this is a fence line, and the neighboring property, which again we are now blessed to own, was open to everybody, and there are less than ethical people out there. And so for my own sanity, I put that board up there to try to deter it and locked it on with a bike lock, and had a bike lock that you could program the lock number to make them all be the same. This was a fun place to sit, especially in corn years. It's only been near this year, early rut, you know, seeking stage probably. And over here on the other side of this, and we call this the Narrows because it's where the field necks right up to the line, I actually have a spy point camera with an antenna extender. Found that on YouTube or the internet, tried it out, believe it works pretty dang good. Plan on doing a video on that as well. Again, you know, I found that idea from somebody else, but I want to share that with you on this channel as well. So this is the Narrows going the other way, and to orientate yourself, or all of us, including me, we are now panning towards the cattle walk. And this is for sure a natural funnel for deer movement. In fact, one of the hacks that other people have mentioned in all these channels that I watch is you try to find where the old stands were, because those old hunters, they figured out where the deer were before you, and sure enough, there was an old stand right about where the camera is now. So another hunting hack. It's kind of like when you go fishing, you can fish by where people are already fishing. Some people really hate that, and I mean, I agree with it, hating that. But anyway, we are at the Narrows now, looking towards what we call, I don't know if I should use their name or not. So we have paid homage to the people that we purchased the land from, and we will always just call it that. So, you know, you have a name for everything, and we're going to refer to that new property by the original landowner's names for as long as I'm around anyway, I guess. But here's another shot of the Narrows.
Quick flight into the Narrows, and I'm going to be zooming you in on my ladder stand that's right on the line, and you'll see that plywood that's underneath. But pretty dang proud of how I camouflage, or where I put my ladder stands. I always try to put them in a tree wider with some branches, and so right in the middle of the frame is a Summit Viper ladder stand. It's a generic, like a muddy. They're actually a really good stand. They sold them at Menards. I can't find them anymore, but if I find them again, I'm going to buy more of them. And now we're going to zoom or pan back to that big northeast field, and then now I'm going to take you to the trail that we're going to go to next. So different day, nicer out, the sun's obviously in the frame, and this is the next part of our property tour. We're going to walk down this trail together.
Now we're looking from the Narrows into the section of woods between us and two neighbors, one which we are now again blessed to own. If you look as I do the slow pan, you'll see a camera on the edge. You'll maybe see the green sign if I can get the right angle there, and another green sign maybe in the very background. More cameras, more signs, and you might be thinking, man, this guy's a jerk. Well, Unfortunately, with the way the property next door was treated, I feel like I kind of had to be a jerk. I was never a jerk to anybody that asked to recover a deer. I had planned to be, and I just couldn't do it. Everybody that came to my door came the right way, and you know, I want them to retrieve their deer. And then in this tree, I have one of those spy point micro links and have an antenna way up there, and I do think that it worked. Now this property I have to use cutty links, and I check them in the barnyard because cell service is very limited, but up here towards the top you can squeak out a signal. All right, now what we're doing is we're walking from the narrows, the open field, through a trail, through the logging that the kids and I made. And I did have a forestry mulcher come in and help me with this. And I honestly think that the kids and I, for this section at least, could have gotten by without a forestry mulcher, because you don't want your trails to be straight anyway, and you can go around stumps. And so you want to curve it, you want to meander it. And the idea behind this was to create a travel pattern for the deer. Now I know it's pretty big. I mow this with a pull behind ATV brush mower, but I just wanted to give the deer a path of least resistance through the tops and through the logging mess. And this was a little hard to stomach at first because of all the litter on the ground, meaning, you know, the treetops and whatever, but I knew that it would also protect some tops and some stumps for regen. And the only way you'd get a full perspective of this is if I got down on my knees and showed you from a deer level, and it is definitely too muddy for that. But this is thick, and this isn't even the thickest section. So you can see the stump sprouts. This was logged a few years ago. This is providing browse for them this time of year. Then there are some taller stumps that provides browse later. And this trail, I planted clover on it. Could probably plant it again. Another thing, maybe you have an opinion you want to share on that. And so right now we're walking to the south, meandering here and there, and we are off the border of the neighboring property. But again, I'm lucky enough to now own that property. But I did this because up at the top here, which we'll probably get to in the next frame, next video clip, I have a banks blind. So I wanted to get some shots for that blind. So I planned this out knowing I was going to put a permanent stand there. And that's one of the things with your property that you might want to consider is, if you are new to a property, to just let it be for a couple years, figure things out, and then make the plunge after that. So with logging, for example, hunt it for a couple years, figure it out a little bit, then log it. And yep, that's going to change deer pattern movements too, but at least you have a better, firmer grasp on it. All right, so now we're looking back towards the north, towards the narrows. You can kind of make out the field in the background. I stopped here because if you log, you will have loss after you log, you know. So this is a red oak that was marked to stay or to be kept. That's what that blue line represents. And it just didn't make it. And it's just one of those things you're gonna have to stomach because it's going to happen. And we'll cut this up if we get the right conditions for it. And my father-in-law burns wood, and hopefully someday we burn wood too, because I love burning wood. There is a field. This would be the second field up top. You cannot see it right now. I know I have some clips from the other direction, and maybe I'll walk out there too so you can see back in. And then I'm gonna pan up the trail. This trail goes slowly uphill. By the way, this is a snowshoe trail in the winter. You gotta enjoy your property all year. The kids love it out here. My wife loves it out here. And of course, I love it out here. As I'm out here today doing this and sharing this with you. Now, the foggy, ominous shape in the background is a banks blind. And, you know, it barely sticks up. It's one of the highest points on the property. And we could shoot on the neighboring property before because it's MFL open, and also shoot down here. I have actually never hunted out of this one. My dad and then my son have, and they seem to like it, and I think they like it more now they can get to it. So I'll show you another clip of this in just a second. So now we're kind of looking towards the south again. Here we have a better view of the banks that's up on top of the ridge. We're still walking along the trail heading to the south. I wanted to point this out to you too. So this is an area that was logged that I didn't get to the tops. I took a lot of the tops out to burn for wood. And because I basically created an exclusion area that the deer didn't want to get to and all that riffraff, which will eventually decay, look at the amount of regen because they weren't able to browse on it. Now I'm just going to walk with you. I apologize if it's a little shaky. This is actually a tricky spot in the trail, especially if you're snowshoeing, because it is kind of a bank. I have a snowmobile right now, which I'm probably going to get rid of, maybe get a heavier one. It kind of slides off right here, but where I'm taking you next is an intersection that, again, I created just for hunting purposes, trying to manipulate deer movement. If you look down on the ground, take a second and show you, there are acorns everywhere. This is probably not the best spot to stop and show you, but there are spots that are just littered with acorns. And these are red oaks, have a little bit more tannins than the white oaks. When we logged, I said, every white oak that is in good shape, please leave. I didn't care about the money. I wanted those trees for the deer because deer prefer white oak over everything else. And we're just about here. You might as well call this the intersection. And what we have is we have a trail that goes down and out to the field. That's the one on the right. We have a trail that continues around the property, and then we have another trail that goes up to the banks blind that's being used very heavily. And then I have another trail that I cut for access using a DR trail mower that I only mow once a year or twice a year. So I'll take you up there next, then I'll take you out to the field, and then we'll curl around.
All right, now let's do a flyover and put it all together. So we're looking at that trail that I just had you on that's in our log section of woods. And as we pan up, you can see the banks in the upper right. And you can also see the difference in how heavily the properties were logged, with the new property being on the top of the screen. Now we're panning into what I'm going to show you in the next part. It's a little teaser for part 3 as that trail wraps around and out to the field along the line. Going to take you north now. So we are starting off of the property, and on the left hand side, top left, you can see a second field, which is going to be a second blank slate. Between the two fields is what I refer to as the cattle walk, and I do think that it's a natural funnel. You can start to sort of make out the banks blind in the middle of the frame. We are about 300 feet in elevation here, showing you the whole thing. And so now we are flying over those trails that I took you down. You can see the logging, and you can see the difference in the canopy between the left and the right hand side of the two different types of logging that were done. And I have a series I'm going to show you about how heavily to log and what the differences it looks like. Now we're coming up to the narrows in that northeast hidden field, and we are just about to conclude this flyover, and I'm going to show you some map images next, and that's going to be it for this. So here we go. Alright, so I'm going to take you in on this map, and first of all, with my hand cursor, I want to show you that we started with part 1 and we went up the cattle walk and through these different features here and kind of ended right here. And this map is going to ever be expanding as we go through the different parts of the series, and then eventually I'm just going to do this map as its own series. I've alluded to this in both episode 1 and 2. This is the new property that our family, again, and I've said it every single time because it's true, is blessed to now own. And so these new boundaries are marked in a slightly different color. So now I'm going to zoom in on where we're actually going on today's tour. So we started right here in the corner, and I mentioned that the need to plant this screening along the edge. We did go to this water hole, this stand, and this mock scrape with the Cuddy-Link camera right in this location. All these different things are just ideas at this point, as I'm still renting out these fields and ag. So one idea is a food plot in the middle with screening all around it, and then habitat pockets. So then on the tour, we went through the narrows. I talked about this stand right here, and we went down this trail. This is a forestry mulched trail that was added all the way through. And then I allude to the banks blind, and I talk about the intersection. And this intersection involves the smaller trail, which is for access, and also has a lane sort of, or shot opportunity from the banks over to it. And that's about where the tour actually ended. And these are just ideas for different food plots as well. I should have some more brown habitat pockets included in here. I do eventually want to get a rifle stand right up here, so a dream of having a potential food plot here. Again, I always do this. I'm getting ahead of myself. This is already planted in crab apples, and eventually like to plant this in crab apples too. And I missed this in part one, but this is hazelnuts, and then this is a CSP planting, and this again is the narrows. So on our tour today, we went this way, went here, and we went through here, and then we headed south, and we concluded our tour right about here. So that is it for part 2, and then part 3 I plan on taking you over to this section of woods and then talking about these fields yet again. I love using Google Maps for this. You know, you can go in and out with it and manipulate things quite a bit. The only issue is our property does not look this open anymore, as this was pre-logging.
I hope you enjoyed today's second installation of the property tour of EB Acres. If it brought up any ideas, suggestions, I appreciate you putting those in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, there should be some more installments of this, at least 2 more, maybe 3. And I hope you like, share, follow my page, and help my channel grow. So thank you very much for your support and viewership.